Florida is scattered with swamps, hammocks, and prairies. It is a place where the United States Army built hundreds of forts, carved makeshift roads, and fought one of the longest and most brutal wars in American history, the Second Seinal War. In 1821, the United States acquired Florida from Spain through the Adams-Oins Treaty of 1819. As American settlers began moving into the territory, pressures grew to remove the Seminoles from Florida. The United States government signed treaties with the Seminole people. First came the Treaty of Moultrie Creek in 1823 that pushed the Seminoles into central Florida. In 1832, the U.S. government negotiated the Treaty of Payne's Landing. It required the Seminoles to leave Florida and move west of the Mississippi if they found the land suitable. The chiefs agreed. But there was one major problem. Many Seminole leaders either never agreed or were pressured into signing by U.S. officials. The Seminoles had 3 years to move west. Tensions continued to grow over the years that followed. By 1835, Florida was on the edge of war. The U.S. Army maintained key outposts across the territory. Two of the most important, Fort King in central Florida, at the far north of the reservation, and Fort Brooke at Tampa Bay. They were connected by a narrow, dangerous road that snaked through central Florida, a road that would soon become infamous. In December of 1835, U.S. commanders ordered reinforcements to move from Fort Brooke to Fort King. Leading the column was Major Francis Dade, with around 110 men. They marched for 5 days, up the quiet road, unaware that they were being watched. Seminole warriors were posted along the road, scouting out the Army's position. The Seminoles had made their decision. They would fight. On December 28, 1835, near modern-day Bushnell, Florida, around 25 miles from Fort King, the column entered a stretch of pine forest and palmetto. It was a chilly, rainy day. Major Dade allowed soldiers to keep their muskets under their greatcoats to keep the powder dry. He believed that they were now safe, since an attack would most likely have come early in the march, during a river crossing, or in the thick woods to the south. As the men marched, a single shot rang out. Major Dade and half of his men fell instantly. Then, pure chaos erupted. Hidden Seminole warriors, around 180 strong, opened fire from behind trees and palmetto thickets. The soldiers tried to form a defensive line, but they were exposed and outnumbered. The attack happened fast. Nearly half of the command was dead. The remaining soldiers retreated to a small rise and cut pine trees to construct a breastwork 3 logs high. The Seminoles surrounded the position, picking off soldiers one by one. Around 110 men were ambushed. Only 3 survived the battle, but only 2 would make it back alive. The Dade Massacre sent shockwaves across America. On that very same day, Seminole leader Osceola struck at Fort King, killing Indian agent Wiley Thompson and Lieutenant Constantine Smith in a surprise attack just outside the walls of the fort. Thompson was riddled with bullets and scalped. 2 coordinated attacks on the same day. The Second Seinal War had begun. It was a conflict that would last 7 years and change Florida forever. In response, the U.S. Army would launch a massive campaign building roads, constructing forts, and sending thousands of soldiers to Florida. But this war would be fought very different. The Seminoles fought with guerrilla tactics, striking quickly, then disappearing into the swamps and forests. For many soldiers, the Florida Territory had become a nightmare. Brutal heat, disease, and mosquitoes plagued the troops, and the enemy refused to stand and fight. To regain control, the U.S. Army turned to Zachary Taylor. He implemented a new strategy. He divided Florida into operational zones and began building a network of forts across Florida. These forts were placed roughly 20 miles apart, close enough for troops to travel between them in a single day. They were connected by military roads. Fort King served as a major command and supply post. It was one of the most important military forts during the war, and served as the location for the Indian Agency, which assisted in the removal of the Seminoles. Fort Brooke served as a major outpost on the west coast and the most important supply base. Troops, weapons, and supplies all flowed through Fort Brooke to the Fort King Road and into the Florida interior. Hundreds of other forts were built across Florida. Fort Foster guarded the bridge over the Hillsborough River and served as a supply depot. Fort Cooper was used as a reconnaissance and defensive post against the cove of the Withlacoochee. Each fort played a pivotal role. Some guarded springs, river crossings, or settlers. Some were large and permanent. Others were small wooden stockades. Life inside a Second Seminole War fort was brutal. Most were hastily constructed from logs, cut from the surrounding forests, with crude blockhouses, barracks, and walls. Soldiers slept on wooden bunks or sometimes directly on the ground in canvas tents. Rations were basic: salt pork, hardtack, flour, coffee, and whatever could be hunted nearby. Disease was rampant, accounting for most of the deaths during the war. Malaria, dysentery, and yellow fever. In most units, more men died from illness than from battle. Letters from soldiers described the misery: heavy rain and mud that swallowed wagons whole, unbearable heat and cold, patrolling through swamps, just waiting for an ambush. Despite the ever-growing number of forts, the war dragged on for years. The Seminoles learned to survive. They moved into thick hammocks surrounded by swamps. They attacked isolated units and disappeared into the wilderness. On Christmas Day 1837, Zachary Taylor led a force of over 1,000 soldiers deep into the Florida wilderness. A large force of Seminoles gathered along the northern edge of Lake Okeechobee. The Seminoles had chosen their ground very carefully and prepared to fight. The troops came to a dense marsh of sawgrass, with deep water, mud, and 5-foot-tall grass. This would be the battlefield. As Taylor's troop advanced in a direct assault, they were forced to wade through waist-deep water. The horses would be left behind. As soon as they came within range, gunfire erupted. The Seminoles, concealed in the brush, had cut the grass in front of their position for a clear line of fire, and cut notches in trees to steady their rifles. They opened fire on the exposed soldiers. It was one of the fiercest battles of the war. U.S. troops pushed forward under heavy fire, struggling through mud and water, taking heavy casualties. Their goal was to overrun and capture the large Seminole camp. The Seminole warriors distracted the troops long enough to evacuate the camp. The warriors then climbed into canoes and escaped across the lake. The U.S. claimed victory at the Battle of Lake Okeechobee. Dozens of soldiers were killed and over 100 were wounded. Some of the hardest fighting fell on the Missouri Volunteers and the 6th Infantry. The Seminoles had escaped, but because of heavy casualties, Taylor was forced to end the campaign and retreat back to Fort Brooke. The network of forts continued to expand deeper into Florida. From these forts, the soldiers launched expeditions, destroying crops, burning villages, capturing the enemy, and forcing the Seminoles further south. Some leaders were captured, including Osceola, who was captured after arriving for negotiations under a flag of truce. His capture and later death in captivity became one of the most infamous moments of the war. By the 1840s, the Seminole population had been drastically reduced. Thousands were forcibly removed west to Indian Territory, present-day Oklahoma. A small number of Seminoles were never captured and refused to surrender. They retreated deep into the Everglades. The war officially ended in 1842. Most of the forts were abandoned soon after the war ended. Some were dismantled entirely, their wood used to build homes in the towns that were built around the forts. Very few fort structures still remain standing. The officer quarters of Fort Shannon in Palatka is considered one of, if not the only surviving wooden structure remaining. Today, Fort King has been reconstructed, offering a glimpse into what life looked like during the war. Fort Christmas is a full reconstruction of a Seminole War fort. Many of the fort's locations are forgotten. Their wood has long since rotted away, hidden beneath modern roads and houses, or hidden deep in the wilderness. The Second Seinal War reshaped Florida. It opened the Florida Territory to American settlement. It cleared the way for new towns and cities across the peninsula, and left behind a network of roads and bridges. The soldiers who fought are often unknown, as well as the Seminole people who lost their land. Despite 3 wars, the Seminoles were never fully defeated. Their descendants still live in Florida to this day. I want to thank y'all for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed, and we will see you on the next. Peace.